Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Clay Township Board. Tonight is Tuesday, September 19th. We always start our meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mary, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mary. Our first order of business is recognition of an outstanding citizen by the Township Board and Trustee. No one this month?
Nothing tonight.
Nobody outstanding in the whole community? All right.
Oh, maybe you.
We'll have to find
I was
somebody.
going to say nominate one of us.
Yes, exactly right. May I have a motion for approval of minutes from the August 22nd, 2017 board meeting?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, order passes 3-0. We have no public comments this evening. We'll move on to a public hearing on the 2018 proposed budget, which I will open at 6:08 p.m. Is there anybody who would like to address the board specifically to discuss the 2018 proposed budget? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing on the 2018 proposed budget at 6:08 and 30 seconds. No action items tonight, Doug?
None. Nope.
We'll move on to information items, specifically about the proposed budget for 2018. And our first speaker is Fire Chief Dave Habush from the Carmel Fire Department.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening to present the 2018 proposed Carmel Fire Department budget. I'd like to point out increases, decreases, or changes in the 2018 Fire Department budget. The general budget represents 155 sworn firefighters, 9 civilians, 3 part-time employees. This budget allows us to continue to provide emergency medical services, firefighting, rescue operations, public safety, education, to name a few services. The total general fund budget being presented today is $25,145,173. This represents a 4.75% increase over the 2017 budget. I would like to point out a few significant increases or decreases in the 18 budget. In the personnel services category, changes to the 2018 budget will include a new additional position. This position will be called the Community Liaison position and is a civilian position. This will allow CFD to make a more concentrated effort with our aging population. Just a point of clarification, this is separate from the Mobile Integrated Health Program, which is EMS based. The two most vulnerable age groups in our community are the very young and the very old. I believe that the Carmel Fire Department does a very admirable job educating our young people. I would like, with this additional person, to be able to focus on fire safety education and public safety in general with our aging population. Again, this is a civilian position. It is not a sworn merit position. This budget also includes reclassification of 2 positions within our budget, the ambulance billing specialist position and the budget accreditation manager position. Both have seen an increase proposed for 2018. Both of these positions have seen substantial increased job responsibilities, and both positions have been vetted through the Archer Company, which is a third-party independent company that does evaluations of job descriptions, job positions. They are the same company that when they do the salary study for the city of Carmel, looking at all the positions, and they go outside the community to do comparisons, they also compare the job descriptions. So the Archer Company made a recommendation for an increase in 1 grade up for both of these 2 positions. And finally, both of these positions received a comprehensive review process through Carmel Human Resources as well as the Archer Company. The last item I want to point out in the personal services budget is line 410-200, the deferred compensation line. You will not see this on the notes that I handed out. In this line item, there's an increase of $100,000, and this is due to deferred compensation by our employees. So these essentially are matching funds that go towards individuals' retirement that they choose to voluntarily put in. We've seen a substantial increase as our firefighters accumulate time with the city. Their longevity goes up, their pay with additional responsibility goes up. We've seen an increase in the deferred compensation, so that's why we're increasing this line item. Any questions about personal services?
When you said Carl's HR did a comprehensive review of these employees.
Both positions, yes.
Shouldn't you be doing the reviews?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't do a great job of explaining that. I'm glad, Mr. Snyder, that you brought this up. So essentially, we self-identified within the fire department, and then I had a conversation with Barb Lamb, the City of Carmel HR manager. We discussed it. She gave me some forms to fill out, which are the Archer Company's forms. Those were filled out. I put my comments in there. I signed off on all of them. It went through HR. HR sent it to the Archer Company. The Archer Company did a comparative analysis on both positions that we were asking for an increase for. The recommendation came back positive for both positions. So it was vetted not only through the fire department and city HR and also the Archer Company.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome. Any other questions for personal services? Okay. Looking at the operational budget increases, bottled gas, do you want me to read the line items to you, or you guys have them in front of you? You just want me to go down, or you want me to hit the line items?
Just what you have on there.
Go ahead.
What you have on the sheet. Go
Okay,
ahead.
great. Yep. Line item 430-311 in bottled gas, we've seen an increase of $5,800. This essentially is oxygen that we use on runs. A common theme that you'll hear is that we are having increased number of runs in the community, calls for service. As the calls for service go up, so does the amount of oxygen that we're using. So we've budgeted an increase of $5,800. Line item 430-419-10 promotional testing, an increase of $9,000 to this line item due to lieutenant and captain's promotion process. In even number years, the fire department tests for the ranks of lieutenant and captain. In odd number years, we test for the rank of engineer. Because we're testing for two ranks, typically there's more people that participate in the process, so that's why there's an increase there. In line item 430-552 subscription, there's an increase of $11,570 due to monthly subscription fees for the EMS tracking system, and also for increased cost in the billing programs that we're using in the ambulance fund. I do want to take just a quick minute to discuss this EMS inventory system. This system essentially, it's almost a barcode scanner type system, and the goal is for us to actually track exactly, rather than pen and paper, actually do it through the computer system. And we're going to keep track of exactly what we have in each location of the 6 stations, each box, the inventory that's in each box, and as supplies are used, they're checked out. There's minimums that are put into the computer system that when we hit the minimum, the computer prompts us to do a refill on that particular item. By using this EMS system, the overall goal is for us to spend less money on our supplies by tracking them better. A quick example, when we purchase EMS gloves that are used on every single EMS run that we have, our people are always gloved up. Currently, I believe we're paying $12 to $14 a case for those gloves. If we buy them by the skid, we can pay approximately $8. So the goal of having this EMS inventory system is for the fire department to have timely deliveries on our supplies, save money, and then the bigger picture, once we have fully implemented the program, we're also going to move this over to maintenance so that when we're ordering parts for vehicles or nuts and bolts or whatever we're working on, anything that's an inventory item, we're going to try to adapt into this new program.
So it's more accountability? Is that what it is?
Yeah, for our supplies. Where are the supplies? Are they sitting at station 41, 45,
Okay.
46? Are they down at the maintenance training facility? Where are the supplies? It'll keep track of those, and it'll also keep track of our quantity on hand, so which is a big deal. I'd love to tell you that pen and paper always works, but if somebody forgets to write something down, now all the numbers are off. And unfortunately, we're all human beings, and so we just want to make sure that we're proactive about ordering our supplies. And if there's a cost savings there, we want to realize that for the taxpayers as well.
Is this just for inventory, or will this help you be more efficient on cost recovery on what you bill insurance companies?
Two different things. The cost recovery, we have gone to a different billing program through the ambulance billing. And so we have seen an increase. One item that I do want to point out, if I can just digress for just 1 minute. One change, the fire department is always looking to create and add value to the community. And if we can reduce our costs, we want to be able to do that too. Earlier in 2017, the City of Carmel Law Office made an offer to us for them to start to help recover some of the ambulance billing that was going uncollected. It was going to a third-party company for collections, but their collection rate was really pretty low. In a 3-month period, it was not uncommon for them to collect $2,000 to $4,000. I mean, it was very low. Now, the great news is that Carmel Fire has a very high collection rate versus other municipalities. And so by working with the city legal department, one, we're not paying any additional fees and they're not taking anything off the top when they recover. And we've seen some huge numbers come back in for collections versus this third-party collection. So we are looking for ways to get more creative and to bring more money back into the for services that are delivered. The next line is 430-570-03, instructional fees, internal. In 2018, we want to bring in a technical and confined space rescue class, and the $7,200 is to pay for that class. Line item 430-590, special projects, increase of $17,350. This cost is due to the reaccreditation process. As you know, Carmel Fire is one of 34 fire agencies in the world that is an accredited fire agency. The Center for Public Safety Excellence is the governing body that issues this accreditation standard. The increase of $17,350 will actually pay for the peer team reviewers to come to Carmel, and then also for our team to travel to Dallas, Texas to present before the board in 2018. That'll happen August of 2018, and that'll be in Dallas, Texas. Just a quick side note on the accreditation process. It's a 5-year process. So Carmel became accredited in 2013, and so in 2017, literally this year is just leading up to the accreditation peer team review, which will be in the spring of 2018. So any other questions about the operational budget? Moving on, the ambulance fund for 2018 has an overall decrease of 10.17%. A few notable increases and decreases are as follows. Line 390-11, Special Department Supplies. There's an increase of $40,000 due to additional supplies needed for the EMS run. Once again, we've seen an increase in EMS calls for service in 2017. A quick note on the $40,000 increase. That is, that number was done before we implemented this new tracking system for EMS supplies. And so the $40,000 was based upon runs that have increased in 2017 and what we're projecting for 2018. We're hoping that that number will either hold steady moving into 19 or maybe even go down based upon some cost savings that we're looking for. Line item 650-02, cars and trucks, there's an increase of $15,000, and this is to purchase 3 new staff vehicles. The fire department has a vehicle replacement schedule. Most of the staff vehicles, SUVs and pickup trucks, we're rotating them out probably somewhere between years 7 through 10, depending on the mileage and the condition. The biggest issue is the maintenance cost. Once the vehicles start costing more to repair than what their actual value is, we try to get rid of them so that we're not upside down on these vehicles. We always take the old vehicles, trade them in on the new vehicles, so we use that as a credit towards the total cost. But including lights and other items that are needed to outfit the vehicles, we're looking at an increase of $15,000 in that line item. In line 650-03, ambulances, there's an increase of $164,960, and this is to purchase a new replacement ambulance. Once again, the ambulance replacement schedule, we're trying to keep on track. We actually have 4 ambulances that are in service every day. There's also a spare ambulance so that if we need a reserve, we can always move into that vehicle if one of our front line go down and needs to be fixed. So that's just keeping with our ambulance replacement schedule. In line item 670-06, EMS equipment, there's an increase of $20,100, and this is to replace obsolete defibrillators. A side note that's worth mentioning, we are in the process of starting to spec out new fire apparatus in 2018. In the 2018, you will not see an increase or additional money that is budgeted for fire trucks to pay for new lease payments, and that would be line item 650-01. What we're looking at doing, we're not looking at buying any new fire apparatus in 2018. You will see an increase in 2019. Essentially what's going on here is that the spec process and the bidding process takes approximately 3 months from beginning to actually awarding a bid, and it could go 4 or 5 months, depending on how long we take internally to actually document the specifications of the truck. In 2018, because of that timeline, from the time that the vehicle is awarded through the bid process, it takes approximately 12 months to build the apparatus. So based upon our timeline, the earliest any of these vehicles would come in would be 2019. So I just wanted to point that out. Any questions about operations?
You mentioned,
I'm sorry, ambulance fund, I apologize.
you mentioned that there was an overall decrease of 10%. Any particular big-ticket items that are less expensive this year?
I think we took out bond payments for apparatus because originally we were looking at bond payments on typically we put in, 'cause we're due for a new engine out at Station 42.
Okay.
But we know that vehicle will not be in prior to into the budget cycle of 2018. So in theory, we could have put the money in the budget, but we tried to just keep it true, if that makes sense, because even if we ordered it today, chances of us making a payment in 2018 is not very likely.
Okay, I get that. That makes sense.
Hey, Chief, on your line items here, you point out these increases. You might have said on item 650-02, which on your notes here has the 3 new staff vehicles for 15,000, but on your budget sheet, it looks like a negative 125,000.
If you would, just bear with me just 1 second. You know what, there's a typo. It should be 650-01, cars and trucks. That was the increase.
That's the increase of 15,000.
Yes,
And
I
02
apologize.
is the 125,000,
Yes.
which you're talking about.
Yes,
The
that
fire
would be the
trucks.
bond payment, exactly. Yes, yes, you're correct. Thank you. I appreciate you pointing out that typo, because that is incorrect. It was 01 for the cars and trucks. And then the decrease was seen in 650-02.
Chief, something you might mention to, I think the board knows, but
Mhm.
maybe people at home that want to watch, is that where does the money from the ambulance fund comes from?
Great
That's
question.
important.
Thank you. First of all, the ambulance fund is a non-reverting fund, so it stays within the care and control of the fire department. The funds are generated from EMS calls for service when we transport a patient from the scene to the hospital. The end user will get a bill from the Carmel Fire Department. We do not use a third-party company for the billing. That seems to be a trend that's going on in the fire service right now. We prefer and we believe that we're giving better customer service by having Carmel fire employees, civilians, actually in the billing office. The billing office is located at the headquarters, so it's not out of state somewhere. If somebody wants to walk in and pay the bill, they can walk into the fire headquarters and do that. When the bills are paid, if it's insurance, we'll help you file through the insurance company. If people have issues paying the bill, we'll work with them. So the funds that are collected go into the ambulance fund, and then that budget that we just went over with cars and trucks, apparatus, safety equipment, et cetera, all come out of the ambulance fund.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Most of everything that you were talking about, I've got little yellow stickers on my
Mhm.
pages. I was really interested that you went down highlighting just what I was going to ask you about.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, I do want to talk about, just a quick minute, the last budget is the pension fund. The 2018 pension fund budget has an increase of 5% over the 2017 budget. This budget is very straightforward. However, line item 260-00 retirement benefits, full-time was increased by $28,763 due to a projected increase of 6.55% on the base salaries. So, just a quick overview, if the base salary goes up, that's what generates for the retirees that are on the 1937 pension fund. Anybody that was hired after essentially 1977 is on a different pension fund, and that pension fund is done through the state of Indiana. We have 15, I believe there's 10 retirees and 5 widows that are still being paid off of the 1937 pension fund. And since the base salary went up, so do the retiree or the widow benefits. They also go up because they're attached to that base salary. And so in 2018, the total amount is $28,763 increase there. Any questions about any of that?
Are you part of PERF? You
Yes, we are.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Public Employee Retirement Fund, for
Right.
those that aren't familiar with that acronym.
But he's on police and fire per.
Yes.
And
I
then
thought that would be
we're on
different,
civilian
right.
per.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you for pointing that out. Yes, yes. And so that increase is on the police and fire perf. And so the increase for 2018 will go to, I believe it's 10 retirees and then 5 widows. So if I pass away, a quick example, hopefully I'm going to be here for a while. But if I were to pass away and I'm drawing my retirement benefits, my widow is entitled to a percentage of whatever I was drawing. So, and that's just the way that the police and fire pension fund's set up. So, questions about that? Any questions overall about the fire department?
Doug, any comments?
None.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well
very
done,
much.
Chief.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Mr. Snyder, thank you for pointing out my typo. I appreciate that.
Well, if you really want to start pointing out typos, I'll be here all night.
Sorry about that. So, okay, well, thank you very much for your support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Our next budget to discuss is the Carmel Clay Parks, and Michael Klitzing is pinch hitting for Mark Westermeyer tonight.
Members of the board, thank you tonight for the opportunity to present the 2018 Parks budget. Mark unfortunately had an emergency come up and was unable to attend tonight, so I'll try to fill in his shoes tonight and go over our 2018 budget. I'd like to begin by giving an overview of our 4 operating budgets. Our operating budgets consist of the general fund, which is uses tax dollars to support. The township contributes approximately 3% of the budget for the general fund. And our operating budgets also include the 108 Extended School Enrichment Fund, the 109 Monon Community Center Fund, and the 110 Parks and Recreation Funds. Together, those 4 budgets represent $13,135,755 total expenses in the budget. We also have projected $10,069,693 in revenues. As proposed, the Extended School Enrichment, Monon Community Center, and rec facilities are all projected to achieve over 100% cost recovery. Just as a point of reference, last year in 2016, Carmel Clay Parks and Recreation achieved 84% cost recovery in our 4 operating budgets, including the general fund or tax fund, and has achieved 81.5% cost recovery on average since 2010, which is the first year the Monon Community Center achieved 100% cost recovery. Just as a point of comparison, too, in 2017, the National Recreation and Park Association did a benchmark of park and recreation agencies around the country, and the average cost recovery rate for park systems is 29%. So when you compare our 84% cost recovery last year, and we anticipate to be approximately the same amount when we conclude 2017, we're obviously doing fairly well in that regard. Also talking about the operating budgets as a whole, 62% of our expenses, or $8,196,834, are allocated to personnel expenses. That includes salaries, wages, all benefits and taxes that are associated with personnel. That funds 67 full-time employees, also 250 part-time employees for both the Monon Community Center and Extended School Enrichment, which covers before and after school and summer camps. And it also includes roughly 200 seasonal employees, most of which are for our water park operations. For our personnel budgets, we do allocate a 3% allowance for merit increases. Since 2007, all of our employees have received only merit increases. There's no automatic raises for any of our employees. It's all based on their annual performance evaluations. All full-time employees are eligible for between a 0 and 4% raise based on those performance evaluations. When we look at our average raises for all full-time employees last year, it was 2.8%. So that 3% should allow sufficient funds for our employees to receive increases. Looking more specifically at the general fund, the total proposed budget is $3,181,368. I think it's really helpful to understand our budgets when you look at the top 5 expenses for our budgets. 69% of our general fund budget is allocated to personnel expenses, $2,190,720. Grounds maintenance, which includes contracted mowing and landscape services, represents 12% of our budget, or $384,200. Utilities, which includes electric, natural gas, water, sewer, cable, phone, and trash, and this is solely for the parks, not for the Monon Community Center, represents 4% of our budget, or $115,200. Legal fees represents 3% of the budget, and that's for our park board attorney as well as outside counsel for specialty projects. For example, we'll use the Township's counsel when we're working with projects that pertain to Central Park and more complex issues. We'll also use outside counsel for more complex personnel-related issues. That's $100,000 of the proposed budget. And information systems, maintenance, and contracts represents 1% of our budget. That's for our contracted IT support and internet services. That's $47,600. When you look at those top 5 expenses, it represents 89% of our total general fund budget, or just under $2.9 million. Before I move on to our next budget, I'd be happy to address any questions you may have regarding the general fund.
Go ahead, Mike.
Moving on to the Extended School Enrichment Fund, which is Fund 108. Our projected revenues for 2018 are $4,251,400, and expenses $4,151,283, for a cost recovery of 102%. As I said, this is all of our non-reverting funds are projected at 100% or greater cost recovery. And this will be the 12th year of our Extended School Enrichment Program, which is contracted services for before and after school for the Carmel Clay school system. And each of those 12 years, we've achieved at least 100% cost recovery. It's been completely self-sufficient, and not $1 of tax dollars have ever gone into this program. Our revenues, I would do top 5, but we only have 3 revenues, which represent all of our funds. 71% of our revenues come from before and after school fees collected by the users of the before and after school program. Summer camps represent 28%, $1.2 million of total revenues, and everything else, which is just under $12,000, a little less than 1%. Those include sponsorships, donations, but predominantly interest that's earned on a non-reverting fund. So that's our total $4.3 million roughly in revenues. Our top 5 expenses for the Extended School Enrichment Fund, 75% of our expenses are personnel related, $3.1 million, just over. This is a little bit higher than our percentages in all of our other funds. However, because this is predominantly a contracted program with the school district, we're not responsible for any building expenses for the before and after school program. The state mandates that each school district provide after school care for their students. Our school system is always elected to provide both before and after school, and they contract it to us to operate that program. Because it's their program that we manage on their behalf, they don't charge us any expenses for the school facilities when that program's taking place. So it makes our personnel expenses look extremely high when you compare it to our other operating budgets, but we don't have bricks and mortars to support. Other expenses, rounding up the top 5, field trips and bus rentals represent 5% of our total expenses, or $226,250. This is for summer camp trips, including water park admission. So every time our camp participants go to the water park at the Monon Community Center, we're actually charging the summer camp program, which is covered by the user fees, admission rate, the group admission rate. So we're generating revenue off of our summer camps by taking them to the water park. Other professional fees, which represents payment processing fees, payroll fees, bookkeeping services, represent 5% of the budget as well. That actually is $198,225. Food supplies represents 3%, or $141,000. This is for the snacks that we provide during the before and after school program, and we purchase those directly from the school district so that we're consistent and basically following their nutrition plan for the students. So that way we're ensuring that they're getting healthy snacks. And then program supplies rounds out our top 5, 3% of expenses at $127,500. These are supplies for arts and crafts, participant awards, and everything else that we need to make the programs run from a supply standpoint. Those top 5 expenses represent 91% of our total operating budget for ESE, or $3,794,973. With that, I'd be happy to address any questions regarding Fund 108, Extended School Enrichment.
Well, I got one that crosses a couple of your budgets, I think, Michael.
Sure.
The improvements you're currently doing to the Monon Center, the expansion of usable space.
Correct.
Do you foresee if you do, when do you foresee a generation of increased revenue I mean,
Sure.
not just the after-school program, the summer programs that are held there that drive money, and then normal users.
Well, one of the things, talking first about summer camps and at the Monon Community Center, one of the things that we've witnessed, especially when we originally opened, our memberships to the Monon Community Center provided admission to the building, but didn't provide free use or complimentary use of our group fitness programs. Over the years, we've transitioned, so all of our memberships now include use in group fitness. And as soon as we've done that, we've seen tremendous growth in our memberships there. One of the things that we tasked our Monon Community Center staff to do was basically grow and better utilize the East Building at the Monon Community Center. So what we've done over the course of the really last couple of years is expand our group fitness offerings into the East Building. What that has done is it's actually squeezed the amount of programs that we can offer during the summer months. And during the summer, we bring the specialty summer camps into the Monon Community Center, and we actually have to contract our group fitness offerings, which isn't particularly well received by some of our more active participants. They have to go in smaller rooms, or we have to slightly reduce the number of group fitness classes that we offer. We're in the process of finishing construction documents for a new facility in West Park in the 40 acres that used to be owned by Jill Perlman. There's going to be a roughly 10,000 square foot facility that is constructed in there using park impact fees to fund general operations of that, as well as some accumulated revenues from the before and after school and summer camp program, actually from the summer camp program exclusively. And we'll be constructing a 10,000 square foot facility, which will allow us to actually move some of our summer camps from the Monon Community Center to the new facility in West Park, which will allow us to continue to offer more group fitness programs in the Monon Community Center. Why that's important is because memberships at the Monon Community Center really drive, and fitness specifically, really drives the cost, year-round cost recovery in that facility. And it's important to make sure that we allow our group fitness programs not only to grow, but at least continue to stay the same during the summer months. So that's going to allow us to, I think, grow the income as well as the expansion projects that we have. We're going to be adding some additional fitness equipment, for example, over the bridge that connects the East and West building. That'll allow a little bit of growth in our memberships, but not as much as being able to continue to support growing group fitness classes. But I would anticipate seeing that revenue relatively quickly once those projects are completed. The renovations we're doing currently at the Monon Community Center will be wrapped up before the end of the year, which is by design so that it's completed before the New Year's rush. And we always see a bump when everyone's doing their New Year's resolutions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Michael.
My pleasure.
May I ask a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you keeping any of the buildings on the Perlman, or is everything going to be leveled and rebuilt?
Everything on the old Perlman property will be raised ultimately. So you'll see that occurring early part of next year. So all the structures that were on there, they were either residential structures or farm structures.
Right.
And the cost to convert them for public purposes to meet ADA and meet the fire standards. The fire chief, the marshal won't let us get away with the things that would make it economical to reuse those buildings, and justly so. So those will have to come down. But the new facility that's planned out there will be very attractive. We're looking at making sure that it has, technology that allows for as low as feasible utility expenses. So it should be cost-effective buildings as well. And we'll move on to the Monon Community Center Fund 109. The projected revenues for 2018 are $5,818,293. Expenses at $5,752,919 for a projected cost recovery of 101%. Here, looking at the top 5 revenues, memberships, as we were discussing just recently, represents 60% of the projected revenue, or $3,487,650. This includes our annual, monthly, and seasonal passes. Day and 10 punch passes represent 19% of our projected revenue, or $1,124,740. Recreation programs, which includes our preschool, youth, adult, and fitness programs, and not group fitness, which again is included in our memberships, but specialty fitness programs, That represents 8% of the budget, or $488,850. Aquatic programs, which is predominantly learn to swim programs, $260,350, or 4% of our projected revenues. And concessions and vending represents 4%, $225,000. When you look at those top 5 revenue sources, it represents 96% of our total revenue, or just under $5.6 million. When you dig a little bit deeper into that, those top 5 numbers, 83% of our revenue is membership and attendance driven. So making sure that people can use the Monon Community Center and we can support those memberships and day passes is critically important to us, and something that we're constantly focusing on as far as our customer service, as well as the improvements that we make to the facility, whether it's capital replacement of existing finishes and furnishings in the facility, or improvements and expansion of spaces there. Our top 5 expenses for the Monon Community Center Fund. Personnel, again, this is only 51%. Since we have brick and mortars and substantial brick and mortars, personnel doesn't represent quite as large as some of our other budgets, but it is $2,904,116 of our total expenses. Utilities is our next highest expense, $694,700, or 12%. Again, that's electricity, natural gas, water, sewer, cable, phone, and trash services. Repairs and maintenance represents 7% of our total expenses, $389,850. These are like repair parts, contracted maintenance to the facility to keep it up and running. Marketing and printing represents 5% of our budget, which is consistent with our business plan, $265,000. Cleaning services, 4%. That's our contracted janitorial services, both for inside and the water park. That's $245,000. Our top 5 expenses represent 78% of the total budget, or just under $4.5 million. Be happy to address any questions you have regarding the 109 fund. Our next fund, which is our smallest fund, the 110 fund, our Parks and Recreation Facilities Fund, this covers the dog park as well as Wellfong Pavilion out at Founders Park. It ultimately will include the new facility once it is constructed and operating at West Park. Our top 5, well actually, our total revenues projected $91,650 against expenses of $50,185. Any additional revenues that we generate in this fund above expenses are banked for future capital improvements for these facilities. Our top 5 revenues, dog park fees represent $44,000, or 48%. This is based on 300 dog passes. And one of the things that we're looking to do either at the end of this year or potentially the beginning of next year is actually expand the dog park slightly, probably by about 33%. Our ultimate plans showed for a phase 2 expansion of the dog park once we find a new location for our park maintenance facilities. However, when we look at how we're currently using the land behind park maintenance, most of the expansion area actually isn't used for any purposes. So we're looking to expand the fence boundary. We're going to do a little bit different surfacing in there. We've done a lot of research, and there are a number of facilities that instead of having sod for the dogs, they actually have a mulch surface, which actually may allow a little bit more usage in the park. One of the biggest concerns that we've always had, and lessons learned from other park facilities, and actually all you have to do is go up to Clay Terrace and look at their small dog park, and you see that a lot of times they become muddy messes. So we look very closely at the carrying capacity of the dog park to ensure that we're able to maintain the sod in a reasonably good order for the dogs and the visitors to that facility. But by using dog march, we think that we can actually increase it even a little bit greater and add to the number of dog passes that we currently offer. And the demand supports it because we have 400 dogs on the waiting list today. So anything we can do to further serve those individuals, we certainly want to do so, and the dogs that they have. Park shelter rentals represent 27% of the budget, or $25,000. Extended school summer camps, not only do they pay to use the water park, the day passes, but they actually pay to use the facilities within the park system. So the Wilfong Pavilion, which does house 2 summer camps, pays $16,450 in 2018, or 4% of the total revenues for this fund. And sponsorships, which are actually exclusively for the dog park, $1,000, represents 3% of the total sponsorships. That's 99% of total revenues. Top 5 expenses for this fund: utilities represents 27%, $13,650, and that's for both the dog park and Wilfong Pavilion. Grounds maintenance, $10,000, or 20% for contracted mowing services for the dog park. Dog park supplies represents 15%, or $7,500. This is really predominantly for the DNA collection and waste sampling kits, which has allowed us to mitigate, which is usually the number 1 problem in dog parks, which is fecal matter. And we don't have that problem at our dog park because of this program. Repairs and maintenance, 14%, or $6,850, again for the dog park in Wilfong. And cleaning services, 11%, $5,500 for janitorial services at Wilfong Pavilion. And collectively, that represents 87% of the fund's budget, or $43,500. Be happy to address any questions you have regarding the 110 fund. And finally, I'll note on the capital fund, 1215 fund, which is maintained here at the township and paid through the trustee's office. This really covers a majority of our capital expenses for the park system. Next year, we are requesting $2,392,000, which should represent the vast majority of the projected local income tax that goes into this fund for 2018. It's split between basically 4 primary projects. We're dedicating $106,000 for Central Park, which we hope will cover the majority of the design services for a new roundabout at 111th Street. The existing one, we're currently upgrading and doing major repairs to the West Drive from College Avenue to the roundabout. The roundabout also needs some improvement, so this will cover design fees so that in 2019 we can go out and actually make the repairs to the roundabout. We're projecting $1,796,000 for replacement of the playgrounds at Inlow Park. We're finishing designs of that currently and hope to go out to bid shortly. It also includes funds for Phase 2 renovations to Inlow Park, which will include the replacement of the splash pad out there, as well as upgrades to the restroom facilities. The amenities in that park, the playgrounds as well as the splash pad, were all done in 2000 and 2001. They're some of our oldest play features within the park system. Typical lifespans for playgrounds, and the playgrounds we have there are wooden structures, are usually about 10, maybe 15 years. We've obviously gotten more than that, so we're in the process of upgrading that. We actually did have to take out the middle playground structure. There's 3 pods that are in the woods. The middle one, in our routine inspections, we found some deterioration of the wood that we thought ultimately presented a safety hazard to visitors. Knowing that the new playground goes in next year, we elected to simply raise it because the expense of making repairs was just simply not cost justified. But it still has 2 additional playground structures, and those obviously will come down once the construction project starts. At the Monon Community Center, we've budgeted $361,000. This will continue our refreshments to the interior. Here we'll be upgrading the flooring in the aquatics locker rooms as well as the hallways outside of aquatics. Right now those are basically concrete, so we'll actually be putting a surface. If you've gone to the Monon Community Center recently, you'll see that we refurbished the hallway outside the gym. It'll be surfacing that's more similar to that in those, so it'll really finish the appearance of those locker rooms unlike they ever have been before, and make it worthy of the facility. We also have to replace the pool drain grates within the pools to comply with the Federal Virginia Graham-Baker Act. Every 10 years, the federal government mandates that we replace the grates, and the existing grates in 2018 will meet their expiration, so we'll have to replace those. It also includes furniture and equipment replaces within the Monon Community Center. And then, as always, we allocate funding for general park system capital maintenance. Unfortunately, here lately, that's been the removal of trees, many of which have been decimated by the emerald ash borer, but other stresses on the trees. So a significant percentage of the $129,000 budgeted for park system capital maintenance will go to tree removal, but also equipment replacements for park maintenance are included in that. I'd be happy to address any questions you may have regarding the capital fund. Very good. Thank you very much. If you have any additional questions that come up later.
Can I ask you a general question about, you do such a great job about focusing on all of your various parks you have, you and the department, Michael, and you touched on this earlier back in the dog park fund. What can you, if you have a view or a thought, anybody that's been to your office, you've got 20 employees crammed into a 4-bedroom house. When are you going to build yourself new offices?
The primary thing that we need to do is first find land where we can do so. We've got some preliminary ideas as to where that might happen close to Central Park. We don't want to integrate it within the building. First, we don't have space within the Monon Community Center to add our administrative offices. Second, there's been a huge advantage in having our administrative staff off-site, if you will, but close by. That way we don't get sucked into the daily operations there, and we can keep our focus on the entire park system as opposed to specifically what's going on in the Monon Center. So the first thing we need to do is find a location that we can go to. Mark has been doing some scouting for that. We don't have anything firm in mind at this point, or any firm offers out there, but we're doing the scouting at the present time. I anticipate that this isn't going to happen, next year or within the next couple years. Optimistically, 3 to 5 years, in order for us to find a new location for.
And you couldn't just raise Estridge's house and build something there?
We could, but then it also puts us in the position of us finding a temporary location. Yeah. Additionally, when we did the master plan for the updated master plan for Central Park, the best and highest use for that area was actually further expansion of the park system, especially to meet the evolving needs of the community around there. There's been a lot of apartment development and condo development in that area. So we really anticipate a need to provide park amenities in that space once we do find a new location. But we will continue to evaluate that.
I think it was last year you brought this up. I can't remember if it was a budget meeting or just an update. You had spoken about purchasing some land for connector trail piece out on Riverbook.
We did. We actually executed that purchase last year, and it was roughly 10 acres plus or minus that basically connects the current terminus of the White River Greenway to property that is actually owned by Conner Prairie. And Conner Prairie is in the process of doing a new strategic plan for their entire campus, which includes the significant land holdings actually on the west side of the river. And they're very interested in looking at opportunities of expanding trail connectivity, not only on the east side where their campus is, but on the west side. Potentially some recreational amenities that they could do in partnership with us. So they're at the very preliminary stages of their planning process, but I think there's going to be genuine opportunities for us in the future to work with Conner Prairie to extend White River Greenway all the way to 146th Street, as well as provide maybe some additional recreation opportunities up there in conjunction with them.
Fantastic.
May I ask a quick question about parking?
Absolutely.
What are you ever considering having a parking garage or some place to pull that parking out and be able to use that land?
We, at Central Park, are you talking about? We actually did a feasibility study for a parking structure and ultimately determined, at least at this time, it is not a viable option for us. One of the things when we look at the current parking situation within Central Park, there are clearly times, especially during the summer and around the Monon Community Center and Water Park, will be at capacity. But the parking lots at the Monon Community Center are very well balanced for the capacity of the water park. Our concern is if we grow the parking significantly in Central Park, we get to the point where legally we have the capacity, but what we found with we have extensive counters within the water park now, so we know at any given time how many people are in the water park as well as the Monon Community Center. And we've identified that when we get to the roughly 1,200 capacity in the water park, that's about where it feels comfortable for the patrons, as well as for staff, for management and the safety of the patrons. When we start creeping above that, we might go from one lost child when we're under 1,200, where we have to find the parents or find the child, to it having 4 or 5 lost children. It's that critical mass that things become a little bit more crazy. And what we find is that parking lot really keeps us right about at the threshold where it's comfortable for us to safely serve and provide an enjoyable experience for our patrons. So right now, we really don't see a huge need for additional parking. But as always, we'll continue to evaluate as we grow and continue to serve more people.
Mary, I sat in the meeting where they gave their presentation on the parking lot, because I was thinking there was a need for one too, and I think the end goal, the end conclusion from the preliminary assessment was it was going to be $5 million. Then but if you wanted it enclosed so people could get from point A to point B without going outside, it was going to be 6 or 7. And then once you add City of Carmel requirements with the brick, I mean, it went so far up that they kind of said you don't build a church parking lot just for Easter. Was kind of the end.
Right.
The end result.
And I think ultimately what we are going to need to look at, and this is within our 5-year Parks and Recreation Master Plan, is at some point we're going to reach a comfort level within the Monon Community Center where demand will continue to grow within the community, but we need to look, is it best to serve all that demand within one facility, or should we look at an additional community center, most likely on the west side, to better meet that demand? So we're not there yet. But I think every year as the community continues to grow, as more people, amazingly, I just saw a shift report that someone that has lived in the community for over 20 years came to the Monon Community Center for the very first time yesterday and purchased a membership. So amazingly, people are still learning about the Monon Community Center. So as that growth continues, both within the community and interest, I think we'll have to seriously look ultimately at an additional facility.
I've got one more. I'm sorry, Michael.
Oh, that's okay.
Can you talk, you mentioned something about a cool new pool feature for next year. Is that next year?
We have done design for a new slide feature in the water park. One of the things that we learned from the very beginning when we were designing Central Park is that it's important to add a new feature every several years to keep the water park fresh and keep people coming. The Flow Rider a few years ago. This year we added replaced the play feature in the main activity pool to great raving reviews. But we're looking at doing a slide feature. Preliminary concepts look at kind of a combination slide, but that really doesn't do it justice because it's almost an expansion of the lazy river. So it would be a adventure river that ultimately connects into the lazy river. Provides an experience unlike any municipal water park would have. Actually, for this vendor, it would be a new concept that they'd be rolling out. The technology they've used in parts and pieces on many projects, but combined together, it's a new design for them. The proposed budget that we gave them was roughly $1.5 to $2 million. They came in at $5 million. I'm not prepared to request permission to borrow money to do so. So what we need to do is continue to work with them as far as the design goes, and likely also begin building up reserves to fund it, so that as we can continue to follow our historical practices of paying for it with cash on hand, we'll look to do so. So that's not going to happen next year, but we continue to look at that project, and maybe 2 to 3 years down the road we'll be able to do so.
Excellent.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Michael. Really
Thanks.
appreciate it. Before, the last information item on the agenda is just a kind of an announcement. The 2018 budget adoption will take place on October 10th, early next month. Do you have anything else you want to add at this point on information items, Doug?
No.
All right. Then we'll move on to financial questions from the board. Does anybody have any questions?
I have something here, just a moment. Oh, I saw that all of our grants are lumped in here. So they're figured into the budget
Yeah.
before we ever come through,
Yeah.
right? And the other question I had was about the Fire Buffs Museum. And there was a $10,000 debit with them. Are they on a special funding from us? I don't remember.
No,
that.
what it was a
One-time allocation.
it was a fire truck that was originally here at Carmel, that they decided, they asked if they could, if we could give them some money to move it. And Paul and I talked about it at one of our finance meetings to give them some money to get it up here. And they're going to refurbish it. And basically, that's an engine that I ran off myself back in the '73, but it's a 1960 cab forward truck.
Oh, my.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other financial questions? We'll move on to board comments. Mary?
Well, I would just like to thank the fire department and the park department. You guys are terrific. Well, great reports, and I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming today.
Matt?
Yeah, those guys are great. I mean, this is the only place in the world where you can say you have the best parks department in the state and or in the country and the best fire department in the country. And we're so blessed to have both of you individuals and both of your staff and departments. It's really incredible to have the kind of community service both of you guys provide.
I'm proud of it, too, very much.
Yeah, I'd like to echo those comments as well. And even though we don't have direct budget responsibility, our police department, along with Parks and Fire, is top-notch as well. So just another reason why it's so wonderful to live here in Carmel. And thank you both for outstanding, well-thought-out, thorough reports. We can always count on you for that. Any announcements, Doug?
Just October 10th, and I know that Matt may not be here, so I gotta rely on you and Mary to be here for that evening. And that's when we make the decisions on the grants, or you'll be making a decision on the grants, which we have left it at 300,000, or moved it up to 300,000 for the grants, okay?
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman, I move for adjournment at 7:06.
Is there a second?
Second, yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:08. Thank you very much, everyone.